relaxing.
He should be. I will look into it.
Here comes James and
James is
Jean.
here.
Yep, there they are.
Hello, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
Matt, do you have the notes docs too? I just shared those with you.
Hi everyone, Michelle Heckman here.
I do now.
Hi, Michelle.
I do now, Tanya.
Hello.
Hi, Ms. Heckman. How was your walk today?
It was good. It was good, except I never go that late in the day. So then I got a little embarrassed because it was just buses and cars driving by me for half an hour. So I really learned a lesson. I don't want to be seen. I'm never doing that again.
It was nice to see you.
I didn't mind seeing you. It was nice to wave to you, but I was like, oh my gosh, it was just a lot more traffic than I'm used to. So I like to stay in my little turtle shell.
That's a busy time of day there.
Yeah. Well, and then all the kids, and I was like, wow, I'm really and then I had to walk past the buses, and they kind of had to move over because I'm a lady with a baby carriage. I'm like, this is just I'm really inconveniencing people here. I need to go in the morning.
It's cooler too.
Yes, it is. Yeah, today it was so hot.
Oh, that sun is, yeah, it really is. That sun is really beats down on you. I don't know who we're waiting for, Matt.
I believe we have everybody. I didn't see Mr. Keegan jump in yet.
Did he say he's coming?
At
Did you?
5:31. So I'll turn it over to Mrs. Husak and Dr. Stoker.
Hi, everyone. Hope everybody's having a nice time and a great start to the school. We will go through the agenda for the Education Policy Committee. I will turn it over to Dr. Stoker to take us through that.
Thank you, Mrs. Husak. I'm going to go ahead and present. Can everybody see that?
Yes.
Okay. So the first item that we have on the under education this evening is to just recap. So, as we moved into the spring and we had the COVID situation happen and when the mandated school closures, we started working on some of the professional development to support teachers in that environment. That carried over into the summertime, and we had many of our teachers step up and be teacher leaders in a variety of different platforms and things that we knew we were going to be using come this fall. And that is continued into the in-service days, our opening in-service days on the 25th, 26th, and 27th. We had a variety of people leading professional development in different ways for the hybrid or remote situation. So we've been really continuing to get feedback from our educators as to what supports they need. We've been working with the Institute for Teaching and Leading and getting some surveys out to our faculty and having discussions in each of our buildings with our faculty to determine where the needs are. What are the immediate needs? What are our short-term needs? And what are our long-term needs? So just to recap some of the professional development that's been happening in each of the buildings, I'm going to have each of the building principals talk a little bit and just share out some of that feedback that we just received in a survey from our educators, some of the things that they feel that they're doing well and we have some successes with right now, some of the things that we still feel that we need some support in each of the buildings with. So if our principals and if Mrs. Dada would like to share anything out as well, I'm going to turn it over. We'll start with James and Peters.
And Mr. Schneider, right before you begin, can I just ask each of you to then send your report notes to Dr. Stoker and myself so we can get them into the committee meeting notes for approval on Monday? If you could just send a blurb of what you're going to share, that would be helpful. Thank you.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. The beginning of the school year, as you most likely know, before the school year, teachers were, in trainings with lots of different things, lots of different opportunities, everything from screencasting to Google Classroom to some more advanced and puzzle, Nearpod, etc. Looking at where we are at Peters Elementary School, it's a little bit unique because we've never really used a classroom, a learning management system such as Google Classroom. We've used computers, we've had technology, but it has not been the focus. Usually at the primary levels, it's more of a direct instruction. So, looking at the needs of the teachers right now, it's basically, sort of getting down to the fundamentals of Google Classroom, which again is our district-wide learning management system, as well as screencasting, which for those of you who don't know, it's the ability for teachers to record themselves teaching a lesson to post onto their learning management system. One of the successes they noted was that the Google Classroom as a learning management system was actually a very positive thing that they were able to now share and use as a sort of a medium to share with community members as well as families. And students, however, that's going to be the brunt of our training this year, is going to be focusing on utilizing that as the tool to communicate.
Hi, can you hear me? Sorry, I had some difficulty before on my laptop, so now I'm working on my iPad. All my sound seemed to have cut off. At Slatington Elementary, I mean, it mirrors a lot of what James just said about Peters. They had all the same trainings coming in. One of the ones that stuck out that they learned a little bit about from Ms. Dunham is Pear Deck. A lot of the teachers really enjoyed that and have found that to be a successful way to engage with the students. The work we've been doing with Google Classroom seems to be paying off. I heard that not only from our teachers, but also from parents as well, who are really happy with the way that we're using that as a common platform to sort of structure and organize instruction. The big things that they want to work on moving forward are sort of a lot of those, I would actually say some of the software pieces or some of the Web 2.0 pieces, but a lot of it's hardware stuff, interacting with all these devices and sort of getting a little bit more fluent and having more practice with that and having opportunities to sort of continue to test that as they move forward. So managing technology and devices. And then there were a handful of applications and things that we used to do very fluently in the school building that we're trying to mirror in this new environment and be able to sort of replicate there.
I also mirror with what the gentlemen have said with the Nearpod, the screencasting. I've been very blessed in the fact that in my building we do have Blesia Dunham, who has been an incredible teacher leader and working with my staff and the staff utilizing her skill set and seeking her out. I've also had my staff being trained in Freckle and some of the new ways to use that through the STAR system. So again, mirroring most of my staff at this point, they feel like they've gotten so much and they want to be able to utilize it to the best. So moving forward, a lot of their thing is to have that help within professional development to be able to incorporate all of that within their lessons and the utilization of Google Classroom to make sure that the Google Classroom is being utilized to the best of its ability. That's about it.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I think one of my favorite things about the survey that we got from it were the top 4 instructional successes and challenges. At the high school, the #1 success was getting the year started successfully and engaging with students. So I think that was the #1, engaging with students, and I will also reflect that too. Also, students completing their work, they feel as though it was very successful, which is really great, considering that we're in this hybrid model. We have virtual learning also. Successfully using Google Classroom and other applications. I also will reiterate what my colleagues have said regarding screencast, Flipgrid, etc., and also collaborating and learning with their colleagues. So I think the professional development agenda that our administration had put together definitely was excellent, because I've heard a lot of good feedback about that. So my teachers at the high school really did enjoy that. Top 4 instructional challenges: managing time and planning time for virtual and face-to-face learners, keeping students engaged, managing all of the technology. I find that the teachers they're perfectionists, so they want to do it all right the first time, and it's my job to say, we're going to learn together. It's okay if you make mistakes. Just let me know if you need any support. And it takes a lot of reassuring, because we're dealing with a lot of veteran teachers that this is new to. So I'm trying to be sensitive to that, and I think I'm being successful so far. And also just managing technical issues that are coming up, either with students or themselves. And I have to give some props to Eric and the IT team. They have been phenomenal. So that is my nutshell, my Reader's Digest version of the first week of school. All in all, thumbs up.
Good afternoon. So when I looked at the survey, one of the things that popped out was where areas to improve is the Ames Web program that we use to do progress monitoring for students in reading and math. One of the things is the Clever, which allows us to do single sign-on, needs to have some adjustments done for it to work so that they can talk to one another. That seemed to be a challenge with the teachers, and I know Jean's been working really hard on that to get that up and running. The teachers are already trying to do some progress monitoring and benchmarking through that program. I think another great thing is the communication that they're using through Google Classroom, as well as I know they still use some of the Class Dojo. And that's going to be a key point, is always that collaboration and communication with the parents.
Do any of our other administrators or board members want to add anything? I would just add that I believe that our teachers, not just on the professional development days, so not just on our in-service days or during the summer, or on our Wednesdays that we'll have coming up, where we'll have structured professional development as well. But I believe that on an individual basis or even in small groups that they're collaborating as well. So if a teacher has a skill that maybe another teacher doesn't have, they're working with that teacher to help them manage a platform better or use a tool that we have in a different way. So they're really sharing those skills and what they're learning with each other. And then if the other teacher has something to share back, they're doing that as well. So we see a lot of that going on, which is fantastic. Some really great collegiality going on in our buildings. Anything else on the recap of the PD? Okay, the next thing that we'll move into then is the 2021 educational modes in our buildings. So just to recap everything there, as far as the educational modes that we have available, we have our hybrid, which is our main educational mode currently. We have students that are participating in a 5-day virtual mode. We have some of our special ed students coming in for 4 days a week. And we have students in our Bulldog Academy, which is our cyber program in our district. So those are the educational modes that we have. And in a minute, our administration will kind of recap how those have been going in the district. But just from my office and my perspective, I'll tell you some of the things that our office is handling. I can tell you just today, we had 20 new phone calls for enrollments. That we'll be setting up appointments for this week. So we have a lot of families that are coming and going from one mode to another, or we have people that have been in a non-public institution that have decided to enroll in public school, or change up their living situations, and they're with somebody who can watch them during the day, watch the students during the day and help them participate in a virtual environment. So we have a lot of different things going on. Our home education numbers are up. Typically, we see somewhere in the 30s. Right now, we have about 50 or more students that are being home educated. And then, like I said, we have a significant amount of enrollments that are coming in right now. I know that some people had pushed back the school year in different districts. I don't know if it's just parents not realizing that our year began that are moving into our district, because maybe the district they are coming from, had a different school year happening this year. But we are seeing a lot of enrollments right now. We also know that the law has changed and that compulsory attendance is now at a younger age. So we've seen a lot of those students who are 6-year-olds now coming into school as well. So we don't have a great influx of those students. I think most of them happened over the summer, but we did see more students enrolling this year, especially at this late point in the game than has typically happened. So knowing that those are our modes of education, again, let's go from the high school down this time. So I'll turn it over to Bob. And if you want to just give us a little quick recap on the educational modes in your building.
There we go. Sorry about that. Okay. Right now with our educational modes, we've had some influx of going from one to the other, usually from hybrid to virtual, not many going back and forth there. Currently, we're at I think 393 hybrid. That means that they're coming in 2 days a week, so that they are actually physically in the building two of the days, and 3 days virtual. We're at we're at around 57 to 58 that are actually all virtual, and we have 25 that are Bulldog Academy, and we have 15 homeschool kids that are neither they're outside of those other ones. It has been a little bit of a challenge to balance the comings and goings, but we've instituted a 2-week grace period where if they are going to switch from one mode to the other, every 2 weeks they can do that. With the exception of Bulldog Academy, if we have anybody that wants to come back from Bulldog Academy, we get them into virtual or hybrid almost immediately. But all in all, I would say that at the high school, it was different, but it was a challenge. But everybody kind of rallied around each other, communicated what was going on, and anytime there's a switch, Kathy Nolan has been the gatekeeper of the virtual and hybrid and Bulldog Academy models. So everybody will tell Kathy, will tell me, and I'll make sure that they tell the counselors, and then the counselors will reach out to the teachers, and everybody's informed of who is where. Jill?
Yep, I was trying to get my mic to turn on. So at the middle school, we started out with a course 250 on our roll books. We have about 30 students who went to full virtual. I have about 8 students in Bulldog Academy. The rest are hybrid. I just have, for the majority, I have a small handful that have left the district into a charter or other or homeschool. I don't even think it's 10 at this point. So the hybrid had started out. These kiddos have really rocked it, and they're doing really well. I think our staff has done really well with that. Coming into this new norm, they have done a phenomenal job of getting the kids into school, with everything, and they are seeming to. I have had students who've gone from virtual to hybrid, a couple flipped back from to hybrid to virtual. So there's been a little bit of change in the first weeks, but not a lot. And we're keeping everybody informed so we know who's where and what is going on, and that we have a great attendance spreadsheet that allows us to do that so that everybody's on the same sheet of music.
So I'll take advantage of the opportunity to echo the last 2 things Jill said, starting with attendance. We've got a system worked out now where we're able to monitor all of that. But I mean, the other big thing is I cannot believe over the past week what I've seen out of not only our teachers and our students, our families, our community. I mean, the kids showed up that first day and every day since, ready to be safe, ready to be appropriate, and ready to sort of work into this model. So I think no matter what we're going through in terms of some of that first week hiccups, I can't say how much confidence I have that we're making it through. Today was the first day where I'm starting to feel like those numbers are settling in. We did have some people switching over the course of the past week from hybrid to virtual. Some of that was just because they weren't aware, they didn't communicate with us, and some of it was just because they communicated to a person and there just weren't channels of communication for this stuff to get in the right spots. In terms of the models, so the hybrid model, what we're working through is what I'm calling sort of a continuous recursive sort of approach to this. So we are continually teaching the student over the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We're teaching them continuous material. So we're not repeating on Thursday, Friday what's happening on Monday and Tuesday. And we're doing that by providing sort of an asynchronous instructional format that works across platforms, and then trying to create sort of parallel supports for the students that are in school and out of school, because we know that can't be the same for the students that are out of school. And also because we know that can't be for the same for the students who are out of school for those 3 days. That Wednesday we're using for all students, and I'll talk about this applies to the virtual students as well, as a day that the teachers are designing targeted review and instruction based on the data that they're collecting throughout the course of the week about what students are learning and retaining and what they're not. So that's kind of the whole hybrid model. The exception to that is, many of our special ed students are with us 4 days a week, and so they are working across that 4-day continuous instruction. For the virtual students, obviously they are attending 5 days. We're probably looking at about 20 to 25%, depending on the grade level at Slatington Elementary School, who are attending virtually right now. So basically we were able to dedicate a homeroom per grade level that supports those students. So in 3rd grade, that works very much, I think, the way that James will describe it, probably more thoroughly, which is they have one teacher, and that's Mrs. DeVillio in 3rd grade, who works with them across subjects. In 4 through 6, since we're content specialists up at that level, and they have math teachers and ELA teachers, we basically have a room that they rotate into in order to provide instruction for those kids. That does not look like 90 minutes of the teacher and the students sitting on opposite sides of computers. We're very much trying to look at the Google Classroom and design instruction from there, and then strategically pinpoint how that teacher is then entering space virtually with those students in order to provide commonly practice review, homework review, review of just material that might be confusing. We're trying to be very strategic about that and look at about 30 to 40 minutes of that time over the 90 that they're really working with students and then saying, okay, now go do this, come back and we'll go over this. So that's really how that's looking. And then for Bulldog Academy, and I know this applies to the middle school level and at James Building as well at Peters, we have Mr. Weber, who is teaching our students in Bulldog Academy. From what I've been able to gather, that's going very, very well. I think it's very helpful to have a local contact so that when issues come up with that, the parents and the students can get the support they need. I think that's everything. My notes were on this iPad, and so now I can't look at them because I'm using it for this, so I apologize.
All right, hello again, everyone. Regarding the hybrid model, as Mr. Pine said, and we worked very closely together, Scott and I, to sort of create an elementary school model. I like to think of the hybrid as the 2 steps forward, 1 step back model. The idea that over those 5 days, we're always moving ahead with the realization that when students come into school, it's much easier for teachers to assess what's going on with students in front of them than it is for them at home. So we're going to continue that instruction moving forward throughout every week. However, we do realize that there may be the need to take a step back and sort of reteach and provide, remediation where needed. So within our hybrid model, as everyone else said, it's 2 days of live instruction followed by 3 days of remote learning. I am extremely, extremely pleased with the hybrid model, and here's why. I was walking around the building today with Mr. Link, and I even said, look how safe this building is. There are at any given time, the students are doing so well because I believe that this model has created a safe haven for students within our buildings. I feel very comfortable. I have not had one concern from a parent, an educator who said, I really don't feel like what we're doing here is safe. So again, I'm very, very proud of the sort of framework we've built here within the district. And I think, again, we're doing what we have to provide a safe and a great education for the students. And I'm so proud as well of the virtual model, the 5-day virtual model. Within this, as Scott said, I have a teacher at every grade level that are teaching just the 5-day virtual students. In kindergarten, it's Mrs. McShane. In 1st grade, it's Mrs. McWilliams. And in 2nd grade, it's Mrs. Hairston. And they provide each day 3 live lessons, 1 in math, 1 in ELA, 1 in reading. 9:30, 10:30, and 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And they provide basically that direct instruction to students who can make it in. So this model gives the parents who feel concerned about safety due to what's going on, it gives them the chance to get what they want, direct instruction from teachers every single day. However, it also has the flexibility built in. District-wide, we've decided that for daily attendance, that as long as students are able to log in, gain access, and prove engagement with the content through the use of Google Classroom, if they're able to do that by 9 p.m. in the evening, they are counted for attendance. So I think the model again gives families that want that one-on-one contact with the teacher, gives that to them, but also provides the flexibility, in this uncertain time. So my numbers in the virtual world, the 5-day virtual, don't exactly mimic what's going on in class, but it's very, very close. My kindergarten has 16 students doing 5-day virtual. First grade has 19 students and second grade has 23 students. And that's just below average class size at each grade level. And I'll tell you, I had a parent contact me today wanting to move 2 first graders into the virtual 5-day virtual. So I'm not sure what's going to happen over the long term, but again, as of right now, that model seems to be, working exactly as it should be. And back to whoever's next. I'm not sure if it's back to Dr. Stoker or to Shelley.
Go ahead, Shelley.
Okay, first of all, I wanted to thank all the parents and staff and the students. They have been doing a phenomenal job. Cooperation and just listening and following all the rules that we have had to put in place to be safe. They've done phenomenal. The students with special needs were all contacted individually by their case manager to discuss their needs and their concerns at the start of this. Some of our students are attending all virtual, while others are attending. I have some attending 1 day, 2 day, 3 day, and 4 day, and 5 days in person. It all depends on some of their placements. The special ed staff has been working so hard. I'm so proud of them for all the planning that they are doing, and for not only just the ones that are virtual, they're planning for students that are doing a 2 day, a 4 day program, an all virtual program, and they're doing a great job with a really difficult job to do all those options at one time. Related services are doing a great job as flexible. Some are doing virtual. All depends on what the parent and students are attending. If they're attending a virtual, then they're doing a virtual related service, speech session possibly, or an OT session, and also doing in person. A lot of my outplacement students, the ones that are going to Carbon County, today was their first day at school, and so far everything has gone smoothly for their first day. Most of them have started on the 31st. However, a few have changed their program already. I've seen most of my students going for like a 2 day to a 4 day, or from a virtual to an in-person. I think that's due to the increased feeling that we have a solid procedure of safety in place, and they're feeling now that they can move some of their students more to in-person. Last but not least, I really want to thank transportation, because I cannot imagine the job that they had trying to figure out who was going where on what days and what start dates and so on and so forth. So everybody's been doing a really good job.
We also have Mr. Weber on the call, who's been facilitating our Bulldog Academy. Tim, do you want to add anything?
Sure, I can give you an update on how things are going. With Bulldog Academy, with finding out about 2 weeks before school started that I was going to be doing this, I'm trying to get up to speed. I've been taking as many webinars as possible, and scheduled for a couple more. The men at the IU have been so helpful, and so have the guidance counselors at all the buildings that I've been working with to get me up to speed. Some of the administrators might not want to hear this, but my goal is to make Bulldog Academy so successful that people won't want to get their kids to come back to school. So I have right now 15 students at the elementary level, and I'm still waiting for the middle school students. I know that they are enrolled and working, but because of enrollments, I'm still waiting for them to be assigned to me so I can track them. All my elementary students are on task, and I've worked through some problems. One of my students didn't know they could have a Chromebook, and worked on getting that. It's really fun to get to know these kids. One of my other goals is to meet with them one-on-one in a Zoom meeting, and I started that today. I met with 5 different students and with the parents, and the parents were very pleased to be able to have that one-on-one connection. And so the rest of the week, I'll be connecting with the rest of the students that are in Bulldog Academy with me. But all in all, the students are all on task. I've had to meet with one father of a student who's I could tell that the child was not taking the lesson seriously, and we had that student back on on pace and is working successfully. So everything seems to be going well. Does anybody have any questions?
Any other comments from administrators or board members?
So, Dr. Stoker, if I can give an update on attendance real quick. I did run numbers, knowing that this is going to be a difficult transition, not just for administration and teachers and other employees, but especially on our kiddos. This is unlike anything, of course, any of us ever seen before. I was a little nervous and potential issues that we might face. It's a lot of IT to manage, but the numbers look really, really, really good. I ran numbers just for last week, and if my numbers are correct, these are preliminary. I got some fine tuning to do, but we're looking at about 96% of our students with no absences at all in the first week of school, which balancing, going back from hybrid to in-person, that's a really, really good number. And that spans grade 7 to 12. So with 700 and about 750 students total in that span, we have about 20 to 25-ish that actually had an absence in the first week. And I think that's really good numbers overall, 96% attendance rate in this mess of a time. So kudos to the kids and kudos to their families and to our teachers for helping me monitor that.
And I would just echo what Dave said, kudos to everybody that's involved. I really think everybody at Northern Lehigh has really come together, administration, teachers, support staff, parents, students. Everybody's really doing their best to make this, whatever educational mode they're participating in, to really make it the best that it can be at this point. So kudos to everybody that's involved. Anything else on the education side of things tonight?
Hi, Dr. Stoker. It's Gail Husak. Again, I want to say thanks to all the administration and our teachers and our community for a successful first week. I think really well, and just listening to the updates from the team here, very appreciative of what you guys are doing, what our staff is doing to make sure our students are safe and to continue our education. I do have a question, though. On hearing some of that, I'm curious how we're keeping track that all the students are receiving the same education, meaning in our hybrid, the students are in 2 days a week, and it doesn't sound like there's quite as much interaction on the other 3 days. For the virtual, it sounds like those students are getting a little bit more interaction every day across 5 days. And it sounds like on Bulldog Academy, we're doing a little bit different. And I'm just curious how we're managing what that looks like for the students across the grade to make sure that they're all receiving the same or similar instruction and the expectations are similar. Just curious what that looks like.
Sure. I see some of the principals raising their hands, but before we kind of jump into what that looks like in each building, just a reminder that Bulldog Academy is not the same curriculum. So Bulldog Academy is curriculum that is comes out of a third-party provider through the IU to us. So that curriculum is not the same as the Northern Lehigh School District curriculum. The curriculum that we have in our hybrid situation and in our 5-day virtual, that is or should be the same curriculum. So that those students that are participating in those two environments are receiving the same curriculum, maybe provided by different teachers, but the same content overall. I know, James, you had your hand up first if you want to go ahead and speak to that.
I sure can. I could start, Ms. Husak. One of the things that we tried to make very clear at the beginning was this is a year of a lot of unknowns. We have a lot of people who are already going between the 5-day virtual to the hybrid and vice versa. So one of the things we're working on throughout the entire year is to ensure that at the grade level, we're basically on the same lesson. A lot of our collaborative time is planned building sort of group work that we're doing together. And for instance, one of the model that my teachers are following for both the hybrid and the 5-day virtual is rather than just sort of posting assignments, they're doing a lot of content creation. For instance, tomorrow on Wednesday, which is the fully virtual day, on top of meeting with students throughout the day, they're also going to be working together to create content so that the students who are in the class and the students who are at home are receiving that same lesson on the same day. Obviously, teachers delivered lessons differently, but again, if there's a student who, for instance, needs to because they need to be quarantined, needs to go into that virtual model, we don't want them to be 5 days behind or 5 days ahead of somebody who's in the classroom or vice versa. So again, we're working with the understanding that this year we're going to try to make everything throughout the year very stationary so that we keep moving ahead at the same pace. We're adjusting together. And although we're still providing individualized instruction within the classroom and within the home, that we're all moving at the same pace so that if we have to go back and forth, it's not a big distraction to the students.
And I know that's the case in many of our buildings. Does any of the principals have anything to add to that may be a little bit different, or anything to add beyond that?
I think, if you don't mind, Jill, the difference I think would be at the high school and the middle school, and I don't want to speak for the high school, I'll speak for the middle school. When a student is assigned to a specific teacher, that is their teacher. So I know at the middle school, when the teacher has created their lesson within their Google Classroom, the students every day are getting the same exact thing, whether they're virtual or in the classroom. So I know with James and Scott, it's a little different because of the elementary level and because they do have that virtual teacher, where if your child is assigned to Mr. P, you're going to see Mr. P and you're going to meet with Mr. P and you're going to have the same lessons as the kids who are in Mr. P's class and at home on that same day, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to say, I know at the high school and the middle school, we are a little different in that aspect where the element, that's all. I just wanted to kind of say that.
Gail, does that answer your question?
It does. Thank you.
Sure.
And then just on a side note, then I guess the next question is, if we think of what a school year used to be, we had 180 days and the kids were in school for X amount of time in a day. Are we providing enough education within the day, doing what we're doing with kind of the virtual and the hybrid? How does that look? I'm finding it difficult to know how our teachers are going to manage the amount of work that should be taught in a certain year, knowing that they would have normally taught that education full-time, 180 days in school for 6 or 7 hours a day, and now we're kind of breaking it up. So I'm just curious how that work looks different. And I don't want to say I'm not hearing that. I'm sure that's all being thought about. I'm just concerned that, are we going fast enough, too fast, too slow? What in for 5 days a week, 180 days for the school year?
So I can speak to that a little bit, and then again, if any of the other administrators want to jump in. But in these collaborative planning sessions, like James was talking about, or in Jill's case, or at the secondary level where it's the same teacher, we're trying to pace ourselves like we would a normal year, knowing that it's not a normal year. So we're having those collaborative discussions, and we're looking at the assessments that students are being given. Whether those are, exit tickets, are the students understanding? Do we need to go back and adjust? Are we going too quickly? Or if the students are getting it and catching on, then we can continue to move at the pace that we're moving. So in each of the buildings, the administrators are working with their teachers to kind of gauge what that instruction looks like, and make sure that we're getting the content in that we're supposed to be getting in, but adjusting as we go through. So those conversations will continue to happen. I know we're only in our second week of school, so we have to see what that kind of looks like as we move forward. But we're expecting that whether the students are in person or whether the students are either fully virtual or remote for part of the week, that they are getting instruction on each of those days. So we are trying to cover as much content as we can. Sometimes it's not the depth of content that they would normally get. It might be a little bit more, they're not getting that depth of knowledge, but they're still getting some of those same topics. And they may be then practicing those topics on their own or through a homework assignment or something like that. But certainly something that we will keep track of as we move through the school year to see where we are. And if as we move through the end of the school year, we are not covering all of those topics, then we'll certainly make sure that we're adjusting for that as we move forward.
Thank you. I agree, staff and the teachers are doing in such a unconventional time that I think it's so important that, all of those things are looked at and it's all collaboration. So again, I just want to say thank you and, keep up the hard work. It's not easy out there.
Thank you. Okay. So we'll move down now into the policy section of the agenda for this evening. So the first policy that we have is the employment contract and board resolution. I'll go ahead and click on that. This is a policy that came up previously at one of our meetings. We ended up bringing this back to the district for further discussion with some of our attorneys and things of that nature to try to decide what we wanted to have in this policy with regard to the 60-day probationary period. So this was essentially the probationary period, and we were trying to decide whether or not we wanted to have that in there differently because of the remote setting that some people were working in. So Mr. Link, I'll hand that over to you at this point.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. And we had, like Dr. Stoker said, we had pulled this policy from the agenda last time. There were some questions, I believe. Mr. Weber actually brought up a question about this. And since that time, we went back and vetted it at the administrative level, and I've also had a follow-up conversation with Mr. Weber about it. And we decided to make it crystal clear in the contract that this does not pertain to professional staff such as teachers and administrators. This is for the support staff. Professional staff and administrators, through their work to become administrators, their initial probationary period is actually a 2-year period where they have to go through the induction's a 3-year program, but then they have a number of years that they have to go through to elevate themselves from a level or a certificate 1 teacher to a certificate 2 teacher. So there's already a process in place through school code for the professional staff. Here, we wanted to, address the support staff members, and we realized going through the pandemic that some of them were not able to get their 60 days was not actually 60 working days for them because they weren't in for a good chunk of the time. So we wanted to be able to address this if we were ever in this situation again. So we added in the the verbiage of 60 on-site days. In other words, I actually have to be on-site working. And then that, again, just to further specify that it is not applicable to professional staff such as teachers and administrators. The rest of the verbiage is what we looked at last time. Any questions? Any questions on that? Okay, hearing none, then I would ask if the committee supports this policy going to first reading on Monday evening.
Board members, does anybody have any opposed to having this go to committee or to board agenda first reading?
Nope.
No, not at all.
No, this is Gary. I think it clarifies pretty well what we were concerned about at the last reading. So yeah, it's very good.
I'm fine with it as well as Robin.
Dr. Stoker, I would say go ahead and put it on the agenda for Monday evening, first reading.
Okay, we will move this to the board agenda then for Monday evening. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for that. And also thank you, Mr. Weber, for just kind of working through that conversation with me. At this point, it seems like it was probably months ago. It seems so long ago, but I appreciate everybody's support on that. Thank you.
I appreciate the time sitting down to talk with you.
Sure thing.
And our second policy this evening is 146.1, which is trauma-informed approach. This is a policy that's actually an optional policy through PSBA. All of the language that you'll see on this policy is that boilerplate language that comes from PSBA. And there were several choices and options that we had with this policy. This policy is being recommended as an optional policy because it incorporates the school code, which requires states to develop a model trauma-informed plan. And then within our district, there are many things that we're doing to move towards becoming a trauma-informed district. We have a team of administrators and faculty and staff that we're putting together to move towards becoming a trauma-informed district. And within one of our grants, one of our PCCD grants, we have money that we have established to move in that direction. One of the things that we have to do as part of that grant is to show that we have created a trauma-informed plan. And that grant runs over a 2-year period. So we actually have 2 years to develop that trauma-informed plan. But we have some of our administrators who I'll let speak in a little while after this policy, who are really working and who are part of our core team in the trauma-informed approaches. So as we go through this policy, the first purpose just talks about the board recognizing that the impact of trauma may have an impact on the educational environment of the school, student achievement, and the school community as a whole. So that we, the board wants to have this policy, for those reasons. The next part, there are several definitions, and what PSBA put out were these definitions, but we can use our own language, or we can use the language that they had. We believe that this is the common language that's being used. So trauma-informed approaches, and then secondary trauma. So those are the definitions that we decided to include, and include that language along with them. The next part talks about the board, that they direct the staff to develop and implement a trauma-informed approach plan, which we said that would be accomplished over the next 2 years as we roll this out, and that the board shall review current district resources, programs, school climate measures, partnerships with outside agencies, procedures, and board policies through a trauma-informed lens, and that they can make recommendations for revisions or determine as necessary different things to make sure that we can implement our trauma-informed approach plan. And then we had a variety of choices of what the board or this group can review. These are all of the things that you don't have to review, but are things that we can review as part of our trauma-informed plan. So we can look at student attendance policies and procedures and school attendance improvement, disciplinary policies, practices, our student code of conduct, and that we would look to incorporate restorative practices into that. That's something moving forward that we'll be looking to do. That curriculum and planned instruction embeds social and emotional learning, which we are working towards in each of our buildings. Student service policies and programs focus on development and support of students. Number 5, that policies and training focus on building and maintaining appropriate supportive relationships between adults and students in the school community. We'll look at our wellness policy, instruction and practices that promote healthy behaviors, policy and practice that promote student safety and security, and building positive relationships with law enforcement agencies. The review of our annual budget and looking at how we're spending money and if we're supporting the trauma-informed approach, a plan, using our financial resources. Number 9, reviewing the facilities and future facilities planning to provide environments that are attentive to the needs of student and staff. And we have in some of our buildings started to implement peace corners or peace rooms where students can go and decompress if they need to. Number 10, culturally responsive practices focusing on identifying, valuing, and integrating cultures, languages, heritage, and experiences of all students and staff to ensure a supportive school climate and community. And again, we're trying to be responsive in that area as well. The delegation of responsibility essentially says that the board designates the superintendent or a designee to oversee the implementation of this. talking about what that may look like. Again, we're looking at a team approach. This is not an individual, this is more of a team that we're looking at, creating a core team and then kind of fanning out from there and having a larger team, and then eventually getting as many people, if not all people, trained to support our students. The next one talks about the guidelines for training. So the district's trauma-informed approach plan shall include provisions for evidence-based training and professional development based on assigned roles and responsibilities. And then it lists some of those. So required trainings for newly elected or appointed or re-elected board directors. So as board members, there is a requirement for you to be trained in trauma-informed approaches. Number 2, requiring training on trauma-informed approaches for certificated, administrative, and professional employees. Number 3 talks about training and trauma-related topics for all district staff and our contracted services. Number 4, training on trauma-informed approaches for all school security personnel. So that would be our SPOs, and that we would have a memorandum of understanding that we would have with some of our agencies that are related. Number 5, opportunities for volunteers, parents, guardians, and other community members to obtain resources or attend training or informational sessions as well. So these are all things that we don't have to do, but we can incorporate those, and it's best practice to incorporate those into our trauma-informed plan. The next part is screening. So the board directs district staff to identify and implement evidence-based screening tools for students and the school community based on the trauma-informed approach plan. So as we moved forward, ACEs, the Adverse Childhood Experience assessment, is something that we could look to implement, and there are some other assessments that are available too for us to check and see how we are doing at certain points within our implementation process. The trauma-informed approach plan shall require that screening results are reviewed by appropriate district staff or other contracted providers, and that there are referrals for any services that are needed. The next part gets into talking about what those services might look like. So the district's trauma-informed approach plan shall include provisions for identification of student needs, the referral system, and then coordination of those services. Excuse me. That coordinated student services shall be based on the district's approved plan, which shall address recognition and response to the effects of trauma on education, instruction, absenteeism, and then secondary impact of trauma on school employees. The trauma-informed approach plan shall address coordination, excuse me, with the designated district staff and teams responsible for implementing the trauma-informed plan. That there'd be parental notification and consent where we need to have that. That the district will have partnerships with community-based services and organizations, public health entities, nonprofit, youth service providers, and other community groups. We currently do have many of those in place. We have Knowlton Diagnostic, who provides mental health services for our students K-12 and helps with some of our trainings, for instance, suicide awareness and prevention. And then we also have our Safe Schools Committee that meets with first responders and also does some planning in various areas like this as well. But we continue to, reach out to other organizations and have other partnerships that we can use for this plan.
Dr. Stoker, if I apologize if I may just interrupt for a minute.
Sure.
I'm going to have to excuse myself, everyone, this evening for another commitment. I hope you all have a good rest of the night. And Dr. Stoker has the notes that I was going to share out for the beginning of the Community Relations Committee. So again, I apologize. I have to leave early, but have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
So then the next paragraph talks about the memorandum of understanding that we would have with those partnering organizations. Under education, that the district's trauma-informed approach plan shall integrate age-appropriate instruction for students related to these topics. And then this is, again, an area where we could have selected which ones we want to include. We believe that all of these are important, so resilience, self-awareness, self-management, responsible decision-making, relationships, skills, and social awareness, safe and healthy choices and behaviors, coping strategies, seeking help for others or self, other supports and services deemed necessary by the team. So we believe that all of those were important, so we included all of those choices. The next is staff wellness and support. So as our teachers and administrators work with students who are experiencing trauma, there's a possible impact of secondary trauma on them as well. So how will we support our staff, who are working with students? So that includes that in the next paragraph. That we also have the employee assistance program that they can rely on for help as well. That there will be a data collection and review plan, and then the numbers underneath that show what exactly that might look like. So we would aggregate data from evidence-based screening tools, that we can have anecdotal information, feedback from parents and guardians, results of school climate surveys, data from student absences from our Sept program, various discipline, graduation rates, things that we could pull from Future Ready PA Index, data from the Employee Assistance Program, Office from Safe Schools reports that we have to file each year, our Safe to Say Something program, and the data that we typically present to the board on an annual basis, and then any information that any surveys that we send out through our positive behavior support programs. So that is just kind of an overview of what we're looking to do. And we think it's very important to have this trauma-informed approach policy, even though it is an optional one. So knowing that we have a few of our core team members, I believe Mr. Marks, Mr. Pine, Mr. Schneiderite, am I missing anyone else on our trauma-informed team? If you would like to speak anything about this at this point.
I'll start. So I'm actually really excited to see this on the agenda and see this policy coming up. I think it's the next logical step in a lot of the work that we've already been doing, and in growth mindset, in mindfulness, in trying to teach social and emotional awareness and health in the students. Some of this stuff really just comes down to good common sense, and we know that when individuals go through traumatic events, especially over a long course of time that are stressful, that causes a change, that impacts them. The cool thing now, and I think that it's why this has gotten so much attention recently, is that common sense and all the stuff that we've learned from sociology and psychology now has brain scans to prove that not only is there a social emotional impact, but it actually impacts the ability of people to learn and just the way their brain operates. And a lot of the things that come up in this, there's an educational piece, which I think we're already doing a lot of, but a lot of it actually just comes down to there are strategies that help break that wall down and help us, get to the students so that they can learn. And then there are also there are practices that happen that we may at times not be aware of that actually exacerbate the problem. And so that's what we're really going to end up doing. I think, we've worked with the staff a little bit to provide some, base information. So I think that they're aware that this is real and this is something that we have to attend to, and that most of the practices, like I said, they're not huge changes. It's not a giant curriculum. It's just it's a lens through which we'll see kids that'll make us better and make them better.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. Anybody else want to add anything? Okay, and I think Mr. Pine made a good point, especially, during the COVID situation, we've seen a lot of students who were receiving supports for mental health, and, some of the students weren't able to continue that. So we're trying to get them back to being able to get their mental health supports now that they're back in school, or trying to get those virtually. So I think it's a very important time to move forward with the trauma-informed approach policy. Do we hear from any board members? Any feedback? Can we move this to the board agenda for Monday for a vote?
This is Gary. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just going to ask Gary. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say I think it's a very thorough program. I'm surprised even that it's not mandated throughout the state. I think we're on a great track of what we're putting together, and I do support it.
This is Mrs. Martineau. I just want to echo that same sentiment. I'm really happy to see this making our policies, and I have no trouble moving it forward to the board meeting.
I agree with both Michelle. This is Robin. I agree with both Michelle and Gary. A lot of work and time putting this policy together. Thank you very much for doing that. And it's going to be the best for our school district and our students as well. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
I think Dr.
And yes,
Stoker,
of course, I'm in favor of it.
I would say go ahead and move it for our first reading onto Monday's board meeting, please.
Thank you. Thank you for your support with that. So we will put that on the agenda for a vote on Monday evening. And is there anything else with regard to education or policy for this evening? Okay, not hearing anything, we will close out the education and policy agenda, and we will move into our community relations agenda.
That's my cue. I just wanted to welcome everybody for sticking around. And Dr. Stoker, I think Mr. Link said that he gave you all his notes. So without further ado, I will turn the agenda back over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm trying to function on multiple devices, so let me pull up his notes on my cell phone and I will read those as well. So the first item on our agenda this evening is an update on the first week of school. So I'm just going to read some of the notes that he had. We certainly had, a different start to a school year than we've ever had before. Unprecedented and not something that we've seen in our time. So a lot of areas to speak about, but this is essentially just a highlight of some of those. Overall, the first week of school went very well. He indicates that he's very proud of how our students and employees adapted to all of the new procedures. We still have work and fine-tuning to do, but I am happy with what we have achieved so far. I would say the most common challenge right now has to do with login issues for students when they are at home, and our IT department continues to support those users as quickly as possible. The volume is less than what it was the first 2 days of school, but still higher than this time last year. Students have been extremely cooperative with wearing face coverings. Also, they are being compliant with the social distancing in the buildings and on the buses. Transportation continues to run smoothly for the AM and PM runs. When students come into the building, they all have their temperatures taken, and that process is also going well, and the students are being very cooperative. Because we have only half of the students in at any given time, we are able to get them all screened and into the buildings usually in less than 10 minutes. So far, most days it takes about 5 to 8 minutes. The parents and the parent drop-off lines have been very cooperative as well. Mrs. Subanek continues to reach out to PDE's Division of Food and Nutrition to get further guidance on the U.S. Department of Agriculture's decision to extend the seamless summer feeding program. So our hope with that is that, so once we have the specifics, we will release the information to the community. And our hope is that we can offer free lunches to all students again, like we did throughout the summer. But again, we don't have that approval right now, so we are waiting for that. Does anybody have anything that they would like to add to that or any questions? And I would just share the same sentiments. Mr. Link and I have been able to get out to the school buildings, do some walkthroughs, walk-arounds, talk to some of the faculty, staff, administrators. I had the opportunity to do some temperature screenings the other day, and it quite honestly is going very smoothly. I think students know the expectations. They're jumping off the buses, just getting ready to be screened, and then once they're clear, they walk right into the buildings. Everyone is being extremely cooperative with, social distancing, wearing the masks. So far, so good. So hopefully that continues moving forward. Anything else anyone wants to add? Mr. Hill, do you want to speak on behalf of the IT department? I know that you had quite a bit of workload with technology, but I know that you guys are really addressing those as quickly as you can and getting everybody up and running. So we appreciate that, but I don't know if you want to speak to that.
We're going to talk about that a little bit at the technology committee meeting tomorrow night. But yeah, just the biggest thing has been the volume. I think of the because of the remote students, the password resets, things like that, and also the biggest issue for us, I think, has been the time it takes to address those concerns. Usually, when everybody's in a classroom environment, it can be addressed quickly with a teacher or the tech staff. Easily addressing the problem. When people are at home, what we're finding is you now have to try to call people back. Sometimes they're not there. You have to make multiple attempts. Sometimes you end up spending, 10 minutes on the phone for a simple password reset, things like that. So what we're finding is it's just the time is a little longer now. We need to adjust a little bit. So those are some of the challenges that we're facing, but we're getting through it. And I think for the most part, people have been very positive. The people I've talked to, I've made a lot of personal calls myself back to families to get people logged in, things like that. And everybody's been very appreciative. People have been fantastic to work with. So we're working through those issues. Again, it's just taking us a little extra time, but we're getting through it as a team here. So I think our staff's doing a great job.
And we
Mr.
appreciate
Hill?
everything that you're doing, not just, with the devices. We understand that we went from don't forget, a 1-to-1 program that was happening as a take-home 7 to 12, and we essentially now went district-wide. So we added on, 7 more grades, K to 6. So we doubled the workload that the IT department essentially is doing in just a few months. So we appreciate, the all hands on deck from your department in getting that stuff up and running. Also helping with the PD and some of our platforms as well. Mrs. Martineau, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr. Hill, I just wanted to ask you, I had one question. It wasn't a put a fire out kind of question. It was just an offhanded comment, and I did not know the answer. When will the enrollment for laptop insurance be sent out to the parents?
It's actually on the website. So parents can go out to the website. It's actually on if you go to the technology section of all the websites of Peters, Slatington, middle school, or the high school, the information is on there and parents can send that in. I believe some of that was sent home as well with the some of the paperwork in the school districts or in our each school as well.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Dr. Stoker, you're muted, just to make you aware.
Sorry, thank you very much. Anybody else have any questions or comments on the first week of school?
This is Gary. I just want to say, I don't know about any other board members, but I just want to compliment everybody on a wonderful week that you've had. Obviously, since our phones, or at least not mine, has not been ringing by parents, I'm assuming we're moving along very well. And I just want to say congratulations to all of you.
Yes, absolutely.
I agree with that as well. Just want to thank the administration, students, and actually teachers are doing a fine job for the first week of school. I know my grandkids started today and they were anxious to get to the school, so I'm sure our students were the same way. Good job, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you to the board for your support in, what is a unique year. We really appreciate it. Mr. Hill, we'll roll into updates on the website.
Yep. Mr. Kern, do you want to do the first part on the actual website update?
Sure. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Hello, good evening. Dr. Stoker, are you presenting your screen?
I am. I can take that down, though, if you would like to present.
Yeah, if you wouldn't mind, there's a few quick little things I just wanted to show off on the website. Let me just switch over to present here. Okay. Okay, so can everyone see my screen now? Okay, not too much as far as the website goes. We had a pretty successful launch in August. In the month of July, we received just some feedback, nothing too crazy, mostly positive. Most of the changes were really just updating forms and documents on the website. And of course, a lot of updates regarding this year and the hybrid plan and the COVID precautions and things like that. So it was all pretty much what you would expect, new beginning of the year updates, nothing really outside of the ordinary from that. As Mr. Hill said, we did add under each of the building sections a link to, under high school we call it laptops, but then under the middle school and the elementary levels, we are going to a Chromebook section, so all the information that you would need about that is there. We also have links to the continuity of education plan and resources and forms that we added. The only other things really under school board, they wanted to, I know there was a request to start archiving the committee meeting minutes as well. So I kind of modified those pages a little bit, and you'll see that now when there are minutes available, starting with the most recent months, those minutes are available, as well as a link to the YouTube live stream after it has been posted. So if anyone missed it and they want to go back and rewatch the actual conversations that took place, those links are there as well. The only other thing that I just wanted to sort of put a personal plug in there was I added under the resources and forms section a Bulldog branding section, which is we often get requests for our logos. So I took the liberty of putting up a lot of our logo designs up onto the website so that you can download them in various formats. For the elementary teachers and maybe the secondary teachers, I also added coloring pages of each of those designs as well, and things like that. So just something that, spreads school spirit in unusual times. You can print out a bunch of these, give them to the elementary school students, and they can, just something extra, something fun to try to add in there to help increase school spirit. But that's pretty much all I have to say as far as the website goes. It went pretty smoothly. Thank you to Mr. Hill and Corey DeBillio and Janet Bayshore, who also helped kind of get this off the ground, as well as Steve Haas, who did a lot of behind the scenes stuff with the switch over from the previous website to the current one. And thank you to everyone who just helped provide feedback to get it to be where it is now. So thank you very much.
This is Gary. Great job. I mean, it's come a long way, our website. I think we always had a good website. I think now we have a dynamite one. And when I look at some of the even bigger districts, they can't even hold a candle to us. So congratulations.
Thank you.
Yes, good job, Andy.
Thank you very much. I'll stop presenting so we can turn it back over to Mr. Hill.
All right, and then I'll just go right into the next agenda item. That kind of piggybacks off of the website. The next thing is an update on our community outreach system. Just to let you know, part of our web project was not only to create the website. One of our things is to update our community outreach system, which is right now we are using Blackboard Connect Ed for that. So just an update on that. We are ready to launch that as well. And today we had our first set of training. It's called the basic training for administration. That included principals, the assistant principal. It included Mrs. Molitoris, Mr. Hawes, Mr. Link, Dr. Stoker was in there, myself, people that typically would use this system. And we learned how to basically create messages, send voicemails, send emails, and also text messages. So we did the first part of the training today. We will have a more advanced training on Friday, and at that point, we are ready to use the system. The reason we kind of went to the new system, really, it's going to be for the people in the community. You're not really going to see a lot of difference, but one of the reasons we went to the new system was it now integrates with our website. So if Mr. Link sends an urgent message, he can have it automatically display right on the website as an alert on the website. So there's a lot of integration there that really makes this new community outreach system a lot better. There's also some integration there that we can use with Twitter and also with Facebook as well. There's also a app that the administrators can use. They can download on their phone. So it'll be easier for them as well. So they don't have to be sitting in front of their computer. They can use the phone app and they can send messages out as well. So that's the final piece of the puzzle for this web project and the community outreach system. And I'm glad to say we are finally at the end of the road there, and we will be utilizing that system shortly. So that's all I have for my update.
Thank you, Mr. Hill and Mr. Kernan, to the entire team that worked on the website, and also for the training today with the community outreach system. I think that's going to integrate very well into our website with some of the things that we talked about today. Does anybody else have any? Does anyone else have anything on for the agenda for this evening?
Yeah, this is Gary. I do. I think it's something that's been coming up recently regarding the facility that we are using for a dog park right now. Also, of course, it's now going to be used by our students. I spoke with Mr. Link about a week ago regarding this issue because I know myself, I mean, through the summer, having a puppy, a new one, it was a great place to let the dog run and so forth. But even myself and my wife, who would be very vigilant of watching what our dog did, ended up cleaning up a lot of other dog dirt that was not ours. And I really had a lot of concerns about what's going to be happening when school comes back in and our kids are going to be out on that field. And for a lot of reasons, there's, even dogs themselves having, the bacteria and everything else in the feces. I mean, I don't want my dog running around, but I don't want my children, our students, being exposed to that kind of thing on the field. And I don't think our staff has the time, or really should be asked, to go around every day and making sure that the field is clear. So saying that, I know there has been some phone calls to me regarding that. I know there's been some emails sent out regarding that. And I know also that our coaches and our parents are concerned. So what I would like to do, I don't know, I think it needs to go to the building and grounds also tomorrow night for a discussion. But I just want to say that I know some of the comments was made back and forth as to where this should really lie. And I do think it's a crossover. I do think it's a building and grounds issue because of the issue as being a grounds issue and the maintenance and so forth. But I also believe it's a community one because many people are upset. Even dog owners are upset by going in there and finding other dog dirt. But also I know it's a community thing because we've opened it up to the community. So I think it's a crossover, and I think it's a very delicate balance. But one of the things that I think we need to look at very carefully is the fact that this is now going to be used by our students. And that's really what the purpose of that area is. And I think it should go on the agenda. But I say, to look at it tomorrow and hear from Mr. Durr and everyone else. But I do believe, and this is just me speaking right now, is that I think we need to lock those gates. That's all.
Gary, this is Robin Disler. I totally agree with you 100%. I know we had discussion about that before, and I'm sure it's going to be a topic well discussed tomorrow's grounds meeting. So I think we can table that and see if there's more discussion from other board members to see. I also agree that the gate should be locked as well.
Could I make a suggestion just to think about? I put it in the comments section because I feel the same way. Every day I drive by, I see people with dogs in that park and think our students are going to be playing in there. Across the street from that park, the long strip along the woods that we really can't use for anything. I don't know what the cost would be, but I mean, it is a lot of people use that park for their dogs. If we fence in that some of that section across the street and just made that a dog park, you would keep everybody happy and eliminate having those dogs in our soccer, our field hockey field. Just a thought.
Thank you, Mr. Fedorcha, for bringing that up, and Mr. Weber for that that recommendation or suggestion. I think that obviously to make the public aware that there are concerns there is certainly appropriate for this agenda, and I can let Sharon and Mr. Link know that that's something that we want to put on the agenda for tomorrow evening for the for building and grounds. Are all of our board members okay with moving that to the agenda for tomorrow evening for further discussion, where Mr. Durr will be there as well?
Yes, Dr. Stoker, I think Mr. Link already added it to the agenda for tomorrow night. So to have Mr. Durr address the issue. And of course, if any decisions are made there, my suggestion is then we
I
move it
believe I saw that
back
too.
here for, yeah.
Okay, any other
I'm
comments?
sorry, Michelle. Yes, I think I saw that on the agenda too. Sorry, Tanya.
I believe it was. And I just have a general question. I know our students currently are using that field. I thought based on our athletic plan that they were supposed to be doing all sports facilities in our stadium. Is that, and I don't know if anybody on the call knows that, is that happening today, or is that we're in such a farther phase that we've now allowed our athletes to go utilize other facilities besides the stadium?
So I know that, go ahead, Bob. The priority is definitely for the stadium, but we are using other facilities. But Bob, go ahead.
Yes, that is accurate, Dr. Stoker. We still have the use of the practice football field behind, in between the stadium and the high school, and we also utilize the field hockey field after school to rotate that.
Students walk from the stadium over, or how are we? I know this probably isn't the right time frame, but Mr. Fedorcha, you brought it up, but it brings in another approach that it's if our sports plan says that we're using the stadium and we're tracking those temperature checks and everything else, are we asking students to then walk into the stadium, leave the stadium, walk to another location and start practice, or are we having multiple places for people to get this health screening done now?
That's a good question, Mrs. Husak. I will have to double check on that, but I know that they are getting their temperatures checked. I don't know if they're all getting it done at the stadium, but if they have to go there first and then go to the practice field, I can get back to you with that answer.
Sure. I would just be curious to how we're tracking if that student has or hasn't.
I would imagine that the trainers would go to that practice field. Like if it's field hockey, since it's all the way across campus, I would imagine one of the trainers would do the check there, and the rest of them would be at the stadium, because the football practice field is like right there. So they rotate the use of that facility, so everybody gets a chance to practice there. But as we all know, they all can't do it at the same time. So, I mean, sometimes they can probably split the field, but I think they just rotate it so they can use the full field on a certain day. But I'll get back to you. I'll confirm that.
Yeah, we'll find out from Mr. Geist and get you an answer that we can either email out or share out through the weekly board update for you as well. But those temperature checks are happening, but I don't know the answer as to whether they're all happening at the stadium or they're happening at those other locations. So we'll get you the answer for that.
Sounds good. Thank you. I just, being a past athlete, I would just hate to see that we're not following our plan or saying that we are, and then all of a sudden something happens. And I do believe these students need the extracurricular activities just as much as the socialization. So, and at some level, Mr. Fedorcha, you're right. Our puppies need it too. So it's how do we find that balance? And if it is locking the gates while we do have sports in session, that's what needs to happen. And the students have to come first for safety and security. So
absolutely, definitely so. So we can move it on till tomorrow, but I think it should be on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you for your question. We'll get you an answer to that. Do we have any other questions or comments for the agenda this evening?
There are currently no questions on YouTube.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. Okay, not hearing anything else, we will move those items, or we'll have those items on the agenda for tomorrow evening. We'll get some answers to the questions that were asked at the end of this meeting as well and get those out to you. Other than that, it doesn't look like we have anything else for the agenda this evening. So I'll ask Madam Chairperson if you are looking to adjourn at this point.
I am, but I would like to say before we do that, just congratulations everybody on a successful first week, and I'm pleased to. I've heard nothing but good things. Not even any hiccups reported or anything from neighbors or students or any people in the grocery store. And that's a sign of our community working really well together. Our students are behaving very well and very mature, and our parents are involved, and our staff and our administration are really stepping up in an unprecedented situation. So from a community relations standpoint, I would just like to say thank you. And
Thank you for those comments.
Are there any other comments or concerns? Okay, not hearing any. I'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everybody, and have a safe evening.
Good night.
Good night. Thank you, everyone. Stay safe. Stay healthy, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
night.
Thank you, everyone.
Good
Good night, everyone.
Good night, everybody.